Okay, so the first thing when you're using this is finding the machine you want to use for it. This here is a machine, direct drive rotary, that my friend Alfredo at Ancient Irons built. And it works just fine for this, works great for tattooing, and it looks cool as fuck, so we hit him up. Put it in the tattoo machine, give yourself enough clearance, not quite enough, to where this part isn't hitting this part. Perfect. Okay. You definitely want to use rubber bands on these. The tighter the better. And start off at the lowest voltage possible. So turn it all the way down. And then slowly start turning it up. Right there is about 2 volts. That's probably going to be your running voltage, but let's adjust it as we go. So as far as pins go, you can use anything. Doesn't mean it's going to work, but you can put almost anything in there. We're going to try all these today. I got a regular Sharpie, a fine tip Sharpie, a jelly roll pen, a cheap gold paint pen, and then we won't use that one, never mind. All right, so we're going to start off with a Sharpie just because a Sharpie is super easy. It's hard to mess it up, and it's harder to wreck the tip. If you're starting with really fine tip like microns, you're probably going to mess a few up. Okay, so the other thing, the amount of pen that you have hanging out the tip right here is going to be determined by your hand size. So what I usually do is I'll just hang it out whatever amount, put my hand down, and if it feels like it's too far away, then I'll adjust it out a little bit more, which is what I'm going to do. Tiny bit more. If you have too much hanging out the end, it's going to be really awkward. You're going to have to hold your hand way up in the air, and it's going to be hard to keep your level. Okay, so once again, this is about 2 volts. That's about right. What you're going to see, and this is the most important part of it, I see a lot of people not doing this. If you're holding your hand just up in the air like this, it's going to be hard to keep the dots consistent. So what I like to do is brace my hand on all my fingers and basically slide it along on my fingers. So if you do that, do a couple practice runs just like this until you feel comfortable. What you want is that you want that tip to be hitting the paper at the exact same height every single time. Then you'll have uniform dots. If you don't, you're going to end up with weird dots. So let's try that. That's good. Those are good. I'll show you what not to do. Don't go fast. If you go too fast, it's going to be weird. You're going to look funny. You can flick it out a little bit, but I see a lot of people trying to flick it out, and what happens is your last few dots are at an angle, so they end up being egg-shaped, which isn't good. If you want to get perfectly round dots, even if they're faded out, you have to keep the pen level. So, like this. Notice I'm increasing the speed just a tiny little bit as I move out. But I'm not flicking it out. I'm not arcing my hand either. I'm not doing one of these. I'm doing this. By adjusting the speed, you can start off with almost a straight line and then go out to dots. Once again, I'm not flicking it. I'm increasing the speed a tiny bit, but I'm also gently lifting it off the paper as I come out. Okay, so now we're going to try a fine tip red Sharpie. These are always pretty fun. First of all, I got to tell you this, I almost forgot, is one of the most important parts of this is having some cushion underneath the paper. It's a pretty violent little action, the up and down, and so if you were just to do this on a bare hard surface, it would destroy the pen, it would ricochet, it just doesn't work. So what I did is I went and got a piece of felt. You can buy smaller pieces of it at the craft store. You can also use like a spiral notebook of paper, but it's got to be pretty soft. You want it to bounce a little bit. And so also too, the paper I'm using is a little bit thicker. It's a poster board. Thin paper works too, but it's kind of wavy and it tends to bounce a little bit. So I'm gonna try a few lines with this. Another thing that's important is holding the pen as close to perpendicular as possible. If you have it at an angle, it's gonna still be okay, I guess. Never mind, but it's better to have it straight up and down, just like tattooing. With the voltage, the way I find it is I usually start at the lowest one, and you'll find that the lowest voltage, at least on my power supply, is actually too low. And here's how you know if it's too low. You'll go to do a line and it'll bounce, it'll ricochet the whole way down. That's too slow. So turn it up just a tiny bit more. You'll get perfect dots. Okay, so I'm going to show you one more thing. This is a white jelly roll pen. And I went and got a thing to slide my hand on. I always do a few practice runs just to make sure. This is my favorite way of doing it now. I really don't want to even draw on white paper anymore. This gives a really, I don't know, just a cool scratchboard look, but also with the pointillism. And the cool thing about this is that if you fuck up, say you get some bad dots, and you want to try it again, all you have to do is wait for it to dry, take a black marker, color over those dots, let that dry, and then go over it one more time.